The Perks of Being a Wallflower, Epilogue, page 117, August 23rd, 1992. Dear friend, I've been in the hospital for the past 2 months. They just released me yesterday. The doctor told me that my mother and father found me sitting on the couch in the family room. I was completely naked, just watching the television, which wasn't on. I couldn't speak or snap out of it, they said. My father even slapped me to wake up, and like I told you, he never hits. But it didn't work. So they brought me to the hospital where I stayed when I was 7 after my Aunt Helen died. They told me I didn't speak or acknowledge anyone for a week, not even Patrick, whom I guess visited me during that time. It's scary to think about. All I remember is putting the letter in the mailbox. The next thing I knew, I was sitting in a doctor's office, and I remembered my Aunt Helen, and I started to cry. And the doctor, who turned out to be a very nice woman, started asking me questions, which I answered. I don't really want to talk about the questions and the answers, but I kind of figured out that everything I dreamt about my Aunt Helen was true. After a while, I realized that it happened every Saturday when we would watch television. The first few weeks in the hospital were very hard. The hardest part was sitting in the doctor's office when the doctor told my mom and dad what had happened. I had never seen my mother cry so much, or my father look so angry, because they didn't know it was happening when it was. But the doctor helped me work out a lot of things since then. About my Aunt Helen, about my family, about my friends, and me. There are a lot of stages to these kind of things, and she was really great through all of them. The thing that helped me the most, though, was the time I could have visitors. My family, including my brother and sister, always came for those days until my brother had to go back to school to play football. After that, my family came without my brother, and my brother sent me cards. He even told me on his last card that he read my report on Walden and he liked it a lot, which made me feel really good. Just like the first time I saw Patrick. The best thing about Patrick is that when you're in the hospital, he doesn't change. He just cracks jokes to make you feel better instead of asking you questions about feeling worse. He even brought me a letter from Sam, and Sam said she was coming back at the end of August, and that if I got better by then, she and Patrick would drive me through the tunnel, and this time I could stand in the back of the pickup truck if I wanted to. Things like that helped more than anything. The days when I received mail were good too. My grandfather sent me a really nice letter, and so did my great aunt. So did my grandma and my great uncle Phil. My Aunt Rebecca even sent me flowers with a card that was signed by all my Ohio cousins. It was nice to know they were thinking about me, just like it was nice the time that Patrick brought Mary Elizabeth and Alice and Bob and everyone for a visit, including Peter and Craig. I guess they're friends again. And I was glad they were, just like I was glad that Mary Elizabeth did most of the talking, because it made things feel more normal. Mary Elizabeth even stayed a little later than the others. I was so happy to have a chance to talk with her alone before she left for Berkeley. Just like I was happy for Bill and his girlfriend when they came to see me 2 weeks ago. They're getting married this November, and they want me to go to their wedding. It's nice to have things to look forward to. The time it started to feel like everything was going to be all right was the time when my sister and brother stayed after my parents had left. This was sometime in July. They asked me a lot of questions about my Aunt Helen because I guess nothing had ever happened to them. And my brother looked really sad, and my sister looked really mad. It was at that time that things started to get clear because there was nobody to hate anymore after that. What I meant was that I looked at my brother and sister, and I thought that maybe someday they would be an aunt and uncle, just like I'd be an uncle. Just like my mother and Aunt Helen were sisters. And we could all sit around and wonder and feel bad about each other and blame a lot of people for what they did or didn't do or what they didn't know. I don't know. I guess there could always be someone to blame. Maybe if my grandfather didn't hit her, my mom wouldn't be so quiet. And maybe she wouldn't have married my dad because he doesn't hit. And maybe I would have never been born. But I'm very glad to have been born, so I don't know what else to say about it. Especially since my mom seems happy with her life, and I don't know what else there is to want. It's like if I blame my Aunt Helen, I would have to blame her dad for hitting her and the friend of the family that fooled around with her when she was little, and the person that fooled around with him, and God for not stopping all this because things can get much worse. And I did do that for a while, but then I just couldn't anymore, because it wasn't going anywhere, because it wasn't the point. I'm not the way I am because of what I dreamt and remembered about my Aunt Helen. That's what I figured out when things got quiet. I think that's very important to know. It made things feel clearer and together. Don't get me wrong, I know what happened was important, and I need to remember it. But it's like when my doctor told me the story of these two brothers, and one dad was a bad alcoholic. One brother grew up to be a successful carpenter who never drank. The other brother ended up being a drinker, as bad as his dad. When they asked the first brother why he didn't drink, he said that he saw what it did to his father and he could never bring himself to even try it. When they asked the other brother, he said he learned how to drink on his father's knee. So I guess we are who we are for a lot of reasons, and maybe we'll never know most of them. But even if we don't have the power to choose where we come from, we can still choose where we go from there. We can still do things, and we can still try to feel okay about them. I think that if I ever have kids and they are upset, I won't tell them that people are starving in China or anything like that, because it wouldn't change the fact that they were upset. And even if somebody has it much worse, that doesn't really change the fact of what you have, good and bad. Just like what my sister said when I had been in the hospital for a while. She said she was really a bit worried about going to college, and considering what I was going through, she felt really dumb about it. But I don't know why she would feel dumb. I'd be worried too. And really, I don't think I have it any better or worse than she does. I don't know. It's just different. Maybe it's a good thing to put things in perspective sometimes. I think that the only perspective is to really be there, like Sam said, because it's okay to feel things and to be who you are about them.